All right, we're happy all of you are here today. And we started a new series last week talking about redemption. This is part two, and we're going to see something called Doug's story, and I'll explain about that a little bit later. Today we're talking about redemption, and we're going to hear a story about how God really interrupted the life of someone and people in general, and he helps people with their problems. Remember last week he said God wants to give all of us our own redemption story. And now we're going to hear about a man whose name is Doug Scholten, and about how God redeemed him. And not only from a life in prison, but also on his own as he moves forward with life. So we're going to watch this together called Doug's Story.
Hi. Hi, my name is Douglas Scholten, and this is my story. Okay. Growing up, I'd say I had a pretty normal childhood. I had two older siblings, two younger siblings. My parents, I'd say we were, normal middle class. And growing up, I didn't have many friends. My parents kind of moved here from Iowa, so the only people I really associated with was my family. Growing up, I didn't make my first friend until I was in middle school. He kind of just got invited to his birthday party and kind of hit it off from there. And so I started hanging out with him and going over to his place all the time. I was doing stuff that my parents didn't want me doing, but his parents didn't care. So when I was over there, we could get away with anything. I loved that. I loved being over there and just the freedom that I had. And when I got into high school, is when my resentment started to build into more of a hatred towards my parents. Both my older siblings were straight A students and loved school and loved learning. And I like sports. I didn't really like school at all. So I started to feel not accepted at my house and within my family. I started to look for that acceptance somewhere else. I started to look for that acceptance in my friends and through other people. I was the kid that, did anything to fit in with a group of people. My friend just came to me one day, "Oh, you'll never guess what I did last night." And he was like, I tried weed. And so the next day I was like, well, I don't want him to think I'm not cool. So I was like, I kind of want to try that. So I started smoking it regularly. And by the time I got into my senior year, I was smoking every day. Ended up taking me in to see a drug counselor. And after talking with her, she's like, well, he needs treatment. Like he's going down a bad path. So I signed up for treatment at 17 for the first time, with no cares about being clean at all. I didn't care. It was just something I did to get my parents off my back. So by the time I graduated high school, I had 2 possession charges, and I'd been to treatment once and failed. They said they didn't want me at the house anymore, that I was a bad influence on my younger siblings. So I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'll go live on my own, I'll do my own thing. I'm better off without you. At that point, I hated them. I wanted nothing to do with my family at that point in my life. And so I moved out, and I started to live the way I wanted to live. A lot of times I never went to sleep. I just passed out. They wanted to help me. They they knew I was in a bad spot, and they wanted to help me get away from, the friends I was hanging around with. So they told me that they could find me a house to live in by myself for, cheap rent. But my buddy couldn't live with me. They wanted me to get away from him because, he was a drug dealer. And they told me from day one they didn't like him, and that if I ended up with him, if I hung around with him, then I'd end up in prison. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't even care about, I really don't think I even cared about myself. All I cared about was, where am I going to get high next? What am I going to get high next? I had, by this point, I wasn't just smoking weed anymore. I had gotten into painkillers. I hadn't been in trouble with the law for a while. I thought I had good friends. And totally coincidentally that I met her. I met her through the horrible people that I met around, because she just randomly happened to know one of the people and didn't know they were into the drugs and everything like that. So she would just happen, then all of a sudden she started hanging out with us all the time. And she hated, she hated drugs. She did not want to be around people that did drugs or drank a lot or anything like that. She was raised in the church, and she loved her church. She was committed to God. And so when I met her, I'm sitting here doing all these bad things, but I liked her. So, I led a complete double life. She had no idea that I was running around doing the things I was doing. And, I totally lied to her. She always wanted me to go to church with her. So all the time, she was always like, "You need to come check out my church. You need to come check out my church." The first time I went, the pastor was preaching on Reroute Your Life was the name of the series. The name of the series is Reroute, the big U-turn on the screen. I didn't go to church all the time with her. I was so against church coming from that background. But I got arrested. My friend got involved with some people. They started a car restoration shop. Everyone started fighting about money. He asked me, he asked me what I thought about if he just basically stole everything from the shop one night, and he asked me if I mind helping him do that tomorrow. I was like, sure, whatever. So next morning I get up, I call work, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna make it today." And he's like, well, could you come at 1 o'clock? I was like, yeah, no problem. So we go to the shop and we start, loading up vehicles and, basically stealing all this stuff. He tells me he's got to go back to our house and meet up with somebody. And I didn't think much of it. I knew the kid is just, whatever. He's gonna go do a drug deal or whatever. He was just a kid. He sold stuff too. So I was like, you know what? I'll tag along, whatever. I ain't got to be to work yet. I'll ride with. And on the way into our house, he pulls out a handgun, and he asked me if I could load it for him. And not thinking much of it, I load it to him, give it back, and didn't think about it twice. The kid finally shows up, and he's not alone. They started having this conversation about going and robbing this other guy. In the middle of the conversation, my friend takes the handgun and he slides it across the table to him, and he's like, take this, use it, scare him with it. And at the end of the conversation, the two guys are like, "Well, you gonna take us by his house?" And my friend's like, "Yeah, I can do that." So they leave and get in their car. Standing there with my friend, and I was like, I gotta get to work. And he looked at me, he's like, just ride to Sioux Falls. You know, what's the big deal? Like, you're late for work, but you're late all the time, you know. At that point, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I mean, it wasn't, in my mind, I didn't have nothing to do with it. I wasn't going to rob anybody. I didn't want anyone to rob anybody. I mean, it was his deal, not mine. And so I hop in the car with my buddy, and he drives the kids by the house and parks on the side of the street. The kids pull up next to us, and they roll down the window, and they're like, "Well, it looks like he's still home." So my friend asked me, he's like, "You guys still want to do it?" And they're like, yeah, you know, we'll do it. So they turn around and go back towards the house, and we kind of circle around the block and kind of looking at the backside of the house. We sit there for about 5 minutes and kind of get bored, so we leave and go to a gas station. You know, he fills up, runs inside to get some snacks or whatever. And on the way out, when we were driving back towards the house, we passed them going the other way on the road. It's like, oh, it's kind of weird. So my friend tries calling them. And he calls them up, and they don't answer the first couple times, but he finally gets a hold of them and talks to him for a couple minutes and hangs up the phone. He doesn't say anything. So I was like, what? What happened? And he's like, they shot him. What? They shot him, man. And I mean, at that moment, it clicked in my head. Like, what did I just get into? I mean, I became terrified. I just started yelling. I don't ever want to see him again. Just take me home. Just take me home. So we drive back to our house, and when we get to our house, those two kids are already there. And we walk in the house, and one kid's just standing there. And he's just covered in blood. And the other kid's in the bathroom, washing blood off his hands. And I didn't know what to do. And so my friend starts asking what happened, and it's kind of like, okay, you know, let's calm down. And so he looks at me and he's just like, Doug, go get him clothes. So I run to my room and I grab him clothes, and they swap out their clothes. And my friend takes them and puts them in a garbage bag, and he's like, okay, go home, act normal, and don't talk to anyone, especially don't talk to the cops. So they leave, and that's the last time I ever see them. And me and my friend take their clothes, and we drive out to the country, and we go burn them. I couldn't handle what was going on around me. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. Let's just go get high. And that's what I did that night. Before I went to bed that night, I checked online to see if anything was on the news. And by that time it was all over the news. It was, you know, the only thing they were talking about. One kid dead, another in critical condition in the hospital. So I went to bed and I woke up and I went to work the next day. About 11 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call and pick it up, and it's like, hey, this is the sheriff. Are you at work today? Yeah, I am. Are you in this building? And, you know, my heart starts just pounding. And I'm like, yes. He's like, you mind walking outside and talking to us? I sit there for maybe 30 seconds not knowing what's on the other side of that door. And I go open the door, and as soon as it cracks open, I'm getting yelled at to get my hands up, show me your hands. And they put me in the detective's room. He's like, we want to talk to you about yesterday. We believe you know what happened yesterday. And at first I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything. How did I end up here? He's like, the detective comes back in. He's like, we got your buddy here, and we know what went down yesterday. We just want someone to tell us what happened. And so finally, I'm like, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. So I spent the next 2 hours sitting there with this detective. At the end of it, I asked him, like, well, am I gonna get arrested? And he's like, I don't know. He leaves, and about 15 minutes later, 2 cops come and open the door, and they're like, are you ready to go to jail? At that point in my life, I was so lost. I was so ashamed of what I'd done. 3 months in jail before I got bonded out. It's hard, man. I mean, I hadn't thought about God for a long time. I didn't even think about right and wrong for a long time. I mean, I grew up Catholic. Go to church every Sunday, and didn't think about God outside of the Sunday or anything. I knew I couldn't keep going the way I was going. I couldn't keep living that. I was like, I'm done. What's life if I'm just gonna spend it locked up? So I started going to church in jail. Started going Bible studies. I got myself a Bible, started reading, trying to find God again, because I knew I couldn't do anything about my situation. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything to get me out of this or just save me from this. I mean, I made my mess. My parents posted the bail, and I got out. I just kept asking myself, what's the next step? Successfully completed treatment. Followed all the recommendations, successfully completed treatment. I started attending church regularly with my girlfriend. And I even started getting involved in church. I started volunteering at church. That's one thing that surprised me is none of these people were family, but I felt loved when I was there. I felt accepted. They knew everything that I was going through, but they just looked right past it. The hardest thing for me was forgiving myself. I mean, how do I sit here and live with myself? And I didn't overcome that for a long time. They wanted me to accept a plea deal for first-degree manslaughter with a sentence of up to life in prison. I'm out on bond, but it's not living. I mean, I got a GPS on my leg. I couldn't leave the state. I was taking drug tests weekly. I mean, I definitely was not free. My main focus was my relationship with Jesus. When I focused on that, nothing else really seemed to matter. I mean, just shortly after I got out of jail, and pastor made an altar call. He made an altar call one day. I'm like, I want to do this. I want to live for you, because I can't do this life on my own. I tried that. So I've been out for about 7 months, and finally, the state prosecutor comes, and he emails my lawyer and says, well, everyone else has accepted a deal, and we're sick of dragging this out, and Doug has until November 1st to accept this plea deal, plead to first-degree manslaughter with up to a life sentence, or we're not going to give him one, and we'll take him to trial for murder. So I go in and I plead guilty to first-degree manslaughter with sentence up to life, 0 to life. I hoped I didn't go to prison. Like, that was my ultimate hope. My friend got sentenced, and he got sentenced to 80 years. I got 20 years suspended. He got 60 years. I go to court at 8 o'clock in the morning and walk out of there at 5 o'clock that evening. That was one of the hardest, worst days of my life, and that was one of the best days of my life. The moment that I truly forgave myself, that I truly felt forgiven, was right before I got sentenced. Before I got sentenced, our lawyers made the closing arguments, and the state argued that I get life in prison, that I earned life in prison, that I deserve life in prison. And my lawyer argued and asked that all my time would be suspended. And, well, the judge, after hearing the lawyer's arguments, he's like, we'll take a little recess before I come back and sentence you. So I get up and I go out in the hallway with my family, and I'm sitting there hugging all my family that have came there to support me. I mean, in my eyes at that time, pretty much goodbye. Before I know it, the mother of the teenager that died, she comes up to me, and she gives me a hug, and we stand there for 2-3 minutes, just hugging and crying, and she looks up at me and she says, "Thank you. Just thank you." And that moment was the moment where I finally felt forgiveness for what I'd done. Just to see her do it, to see her do that. I'm going to sentence you to 30 years in the state penitentiary, and I'm going to suspend the execution of that sentence. And he says, I'm also going to sentence you to 180 days in county jail. And I'm going to give you credit for the 104 days you sat already, and with the remaining 76 days, I'm going to suspend that too. I couldn't believe it. I had a funded $10,000 scholarship to be at the disposal of the victim's mom. I had to continue my treatment, continue my drug counseling, continue with individual counseling. I had to continue doing drug tests, NA or AA meetings, and with that, court's adjourned. And my life was given back to me. It was just, Lord, just protect me. Whatever you have for me, I'm gonna follow you. And I felt protected.
Wow. Wow, really? I'm thankful that Doug just poured out his heart there. It was really a hard thing for him to talk about his life and his problems. Can you imagine knowing all that? I was in the wrong place. I was at the wrong time. I was involved with the wrong people. I noticed one thing that really touched my heart. He said, I can't fix this myself. I can't live by myself. I need him. And that's true. We are the same as Doug. Maybe we haven't been involved in robbery or killing someone, but we are all guilty of sin, just like he was. Maybe we don't have to go to the courthouse, but we have to stand before God as our judge. And if we stand there without Jesus in our hearts, we are guilty. Doug explained, he described things to us that maybe we didn't quite understand. Court was suspended, the sentence suspended, he was out, he was free. But you know, we are guilty too if we stood before God, and Jesus died for our sin. And we can be free if we receive him into our lives. We're going to go on and explain a few more verses. Notice this one. The Bible says in Colossians 1:21, at one time you were separated from God. You were God's enemies in your minds because of the evil things that you did against God. I have a friend of mine. He's intelligent, so wise about things in the Bible. He's been a preacher for many years. And I heard him preach one time, and he said something. I heard it and thought, Then I realized he's right. He said, and I quote, part of me hates God. And I thought, we can't say that. We don't hate God. But you know, he was right, and that's true. We have a sin nature. Part of me is selfish and prideful and wants to live for my own self and wants to turn away from God completely. But if we've accepted him into our lives, at some point in our lives, we've realized, yes, I am separated from him. I need him. I need to make a decision not to go my own way, but to follow him. And Doug finally made that decision to accept redemption. Next slide, please. Verse 22 says, but now Christ has made you God's friends again. Christ did this by his death while he was in his body. Christ did this so that he could bring you before God. He brings you before God as people who are holy, with no wrong in you, and with nothing that God can judge you guilty of. Wow. Let me explain just a bit. You all know who you really are. You know yourselves. You know you. I know me, okay? We're sinners. We don't run around listing our sin, telling people, hey, this week I did this, that, and the other thing, but we know what we did. We lied this week, perhaps. Maybe I cheated on my time card at work, or I just lost my temper and got mad at someone. I know in my own heart, I'm guilty. And God looks at us and he sees us. We know that we're sinners before God, but God sees us through his Son's blood. He doesn't see our sin. He sees us as holy. You know, that's really not fair, is it? But Jesus was willing to provide redemption for us if we are willing to receive him. And then in Jesus, we're free. We are free in Jesus Christ, just like Doug found freedom. If you haven't accepted Jesus into your life, you're in slavery, you're in shackles. Once you've received Jesus, you find freedom. The devil lies to all of us. The devil says, not Jesus. He's not going to free you. You're not free. Remember long, long ago in Genesis with Eve and Adam? The first thing the devil said to them was to try to make Eve doubt God's word by saying, God didn't say that. God did not say that. And if Eve, Eve knew God's word but decided to on her own to live her own way. So Eve was, if we believe that God wants to oppress us, to keep us down, sin enslaves us. But with Jesus Christ, we find freedom. Did you see this? He made us holy, as if there's nothing wrong in us. And only Jesus can do that. Jesus offers redemption if you receive him. Next week, there will be a different story, another testimony that's related to redemption. Wow, I'm excited to see that next week. If you have not yet received Jesus Christ into your own life, please come and see me after church, and I'll talk with you and show you what it means to receive Jesus and to receive redemption. Not from my word, but from God's word, so you can know the Savior. Let's pray together. Oh, Father, thank you for Doug's story, his testimony, Lord. Thank you that he was willing to pour his heart out and share with all of us some really personal information. Thank you that we learned this from him. And Lord, we see that you really are a God who can change lives if we will turn to you. If there's anyone here today who hasn't received you into their lives, please help them to make that decision to say yes. I need to do that today. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. All right.